So, what is a grant? You might have heard the term grants already, that they are the means through which research themes and project goals are funded. Here is the definition of a grant within the context of grants management. It is a sum of money or in kind contribution that is given by a grant awarding body, such as a government, agency, an organization, a foundation, or an individual. It is awarded to fund a specific project or purpose linked to public benefit. It is usually awarded upon the successful approval of a grant application or research proposal put in by a grantee, and it is governed by formalized terms and conditions. And note that the terms and conditions are one of the key factors that determine the compliance regime attached to any grant. And it is backed by formal and legally binding documents such as a grant award letter and a grant agreement. And lastly, a grant is non refundable only when certain conditions have been complied with. That is, some past activity or project, or when there's reasonable assurance that the organization will comply with the conditions attached to the grant in the future. So, let us take a quick look at scenarios when grant funding could be non refundable or refundable. Usually, grant funding that is fully spent, meaning that all of the funds received have been fully spent on eligible types of expenditure and in accordance with the funder's terms and conditions, are non refundable. However, if not fully spent, any unspent balance has to be refunded to the funder, subject to the size of the unspent balance and the type of grant and at the funder's discretion. And grant funds that have been spent could be refundable if certain specified conditions are not met. An example could be where a funder's procurement criteria for purchasing equipment above certain monetary limits are not met, and so the expenditure incurred with regards to purchasing such equipment would not qualify as eligible expenditure based on the funder's terms and conditions and rules. And so, if it is the case that the amount spent on such equipment has already been received from or reimbursed by the funder, the research organization would need to refund the said amount to the funder. Whereas, if not already reimbursed by the funder, the amount of the expenditure incurred would need to be excluded from the grant expenditure claim, meaning that the incurred expenditure is not claimable. Thus far, the description of a grant I've given here captures the main points in the International Financial Reporting Standards and in the UK Accounting Standards regarding grant definitions. It is worth mentioning at this point that there are other types of funding for research projects that may be sourced or received that are not termed as grants. And these are donations and endowments. With regards to donations, they are usually provided by organizations such as foundations or charities, or private donors such as an individual or a group of individuals. And they could be given on a donor's volition or elicited through fundraising activities towards funding a specific project or to support a particular cause. Generally, donations do not have similar restrictive terms and conditions and compliance regime attached to grants, and therefore can be used at the discretion of the recipient on a research project. They are a great buffer for any research organization to have to cater for other non grant expenditure. Moving on to endowments, this is where the research organization receives a gift of money or other financial asset that is then invested to generate investment income. A specific percentage of the income generated is then applied to research funding, subject to a legal framework and some long term guidelines. Endowments are meant to last in perpetuity. Furthermore, an endowment could be property given to provide research facilities for a specific kind of research. Note that endowments and donations are not covered further on this course.